Welcome back to the Mind and Money podcast. I'm Sherry, a financial coach.
And I'm Val, a financial planner. And today is episode 100, which blows my mind. A, we did it. We stayed consistent. B, we did it.
It seems crazy, but one of the things that helps podcasts be successful is just continuing to show up. I think that's basically the same with everything, with your money, in your business. If you just keep going, even if it's a hot mess sometimes, like today, we planned on recording starting at 10 a.m. and time now is 10:49. And part of that was me being late and part of that was getting mics set up. And yeah, you got to roll with the punches. And we also typically do in person, but last time we decided we'd do 2 episodes and then get lunch because that's what we prioritize. So
it was needed.
Definitely. And today we are going to run down some of our top tips for managing money for folks with ADHD. And we each wrote our own little lists, and I'm certain there's a lot of overlap, but we're going to see how that goes. And why don't you take it away, Val, with your first tip? And my gut's telling me it's going to be the same as my first tip.
I feel like this is almost like a financial vow because we wrote them separately and now we're going to share them with each other and the world. We're sharing our love for money. So I reflected on my own financial journey and working with you and being a financial planner. And the first thing I said, so top 3 money tips. Number 1 is have a system. Have a system that works for you. Whether it's having multiple accounts for different savings goals or vehicle maintenance and pet, because those aren't necessarily savings goals, but they come up. So those different areas of expenses in our lives as a business owner, that goes to the next level where you separate personal and business. That was huge for me. But even as that T4 employee, having a system where, okay, my pay goes in this day and the next day, X amount goes to this account, X amount goes to this account. Knowing this is how much I can spend, and I spend it where? Do I spend it from a spending account, a different checkings account? That's a big one too, is like separating your bills and your spending. I think that's so huge because it's really, another one later on is about credit cards, but that was my first one, is having a system. What's yours?
Same, but different. So it was separate money. Don't have it all in one account. So if you take one piece from this podcast, do this, please. If your money is all in one account, so if your personal money is all in one account, have at least 2 accounts, one for your bills and one for spending. You could add one more, and it's one for like impulsive spending, because then there's a way to separate it. And doing this and having a system, I firmly believe that when I start working with a new client and they do this and they come back to me, they're like, oh, it just got easier. I feel a lot less stressed. And it's because when you give money a job as soon as possible, you have to do less mental math to answer the question, can I buy this now? You don't have to go into one account and think, well, my electric bill is going to come out in 2 days and my phone bill is going to come out in a week, and do I get paid in 6 days or 8 days? You don't have to do that mental math, and it's so freeing. You make decisions based on the balance in your spending account, and it's just a game changer.
Yeah, there's clarity around what the job of the dollars are, and it helps too to kind of release that feeling, because often when we have one account and it starts to pile up, it creates this like abundant scarcity battle of, I don't want to let it go. It's been my security. I don't like to see it below this amount. Well, what's your goal with this amount? Oh, I don't have a goal. I just like seeing it. So by separating it, and even like, I love nicknaming accounts. I love it. And I have gone through having one account, which was very overwhelming, to having 18 accounts, which I loved, but it wasn't the system for everyone. And now I hover around probably 5 to 6 accounts. And it's what works for you. How do you want to separate things? Look at your life and apply it.
I just want to do a real quick analogy here, because we love a good analogy. And
yes, we do.
Going from one account for your personal that everything happens in to multiple accounts feels like taking a basket of laundry that is full of everything. It's got clean laundry. It's got dirty laundry. Nothing's folded. It's got sweaters. It's got underwear. It's got everything. To all the dirty laundry is in its own basket. and all of the clean laundry is folded and put in a drawer based on what it is. You've got your socks here, your sweaters here. Even just picturing that transition gives me a sense of calm, because it's like going from chaos to calm. And I really think the goal with your money is that it should just feel boring. And this is the first step to help you get there.
I agree completely. And I love that you used a laundry analogy. Love that. But that does create that visual of it's going from chaos to containment. And it's not containment in the sense of restriction. I always want to remind clients of that, because by knowing what's in your different containers, you're actually able to have more clarity, more peace, and know what you're working with. So I love that. Thank you for adding that. What's your number 2?
It's kind of essential when you're going to do one, is that have an overall plan for your money. And I always default to a monthly plan and then breaking that down into like pay based, but to be able to know exactly what is going into what accounts, that overall plan is pretty essential, because if you know I need $2,000 in my bills account every month to cover all my bills, and then I can transfer the rest, like knowing the key pieces of how much is spending, how much is bills, helps you with that separation. So again, I say it is kind of essential to do number 1, but if you're just doing number 1 and you're not ready to build the full plan, open a spending account, transfer a small amount that they have confidence that it's manageable for you to put in that account, and just start there. If building the full plan feels like too big of a mountain to climb, we got to climb this transition with your money one step at a time. And
yes,
this partners with a previous comment. This was a specific point on mine, but I think here's a perfect spot to share it, is avoid restriction. When you're building your plan, if you think about, I want as much as possible to go towards this goal, whether that's paying off debt or growing savings, and then you slash and burn everything else. Like I have been spending $400 a month on groceries, but I think I could do 200. Like it's not going to be sustainable. So I love a plan that gets us to our goals faster, but if we only do it for 2 weeks because it's not sustainable, it's not going to achieve that.
100%. It's like the binge aspect of like, I'm not going to do anything. And then we go so extreme to one side that we fling back the other side, because we're like, well, I'm going to eat all the sugar because I have been depriving myself. So adding on to that, which is an interesting piece, that when we have the spend account, the ideal, especially if we're maybe doing a reset or kind of getting our training wheels back on, the ideal is to spend directly from that spend account. One of my pieces is keep credit manageable. So where credit comes into play is credit cards can give us a really false sense of zero. It's very easy to say, okay, I have $500 in my spend account. My credit limit is $1,000. I want to get this thing for 700. Like I'll catch that up later. So I'll put it on my credit card. But then there's this false like, oh, but I've still got 500 in my account. So it's a tough one, because we want to use credit cards to build our credit, of course. But for some of us, when we're, again, I'm going to use the word resetting, it can be a little bit detrimental if we have the credit card, and credit companies love to give us increases. So we have the credit card with the $20,000 limit, and we've got set to in our spend account of 500 a week, let's say. It's very easy to be like, oh, well, I'm through my spend, but I still want to go do this. I've got my credit card. I'm not saying that you can't ever do that. It just becomes risky. And that was one of my pieces when I started in business. Was credit was a big part of helping me to build my business and deal with the income ebbs and flows. When I didn't have a system, it was kind of just survival at that point, but keeping it manageable. Assumed when I was younger, I think I had my first credit card at 18. I was like, well, the more that they offer you, like, take it just in case, take it just in case. Very easy to also use it just in case. So keep credit manageable. It is a tool to help us, but it can also harm us. And when it comes to that spend piece, if you're someone that's like, I really like using my credit card for the points, I can have my separate spend account, but then I pay my credit card from there, I would recommend lowering the limit on your credit card then.
Yes. And mine to credit cards is maybe a little less flexible, but I think we're kind of speaking the same language, is don't use a credit card if you are carrying credit card debt and have the goal of paying it off. Because here's Here's the cycle that I see happen all of the time is we get paid. We know what we need to cover our bills. And then we put every other dollar we can to pay down our credit card balance. So maybe we're putting $500 on our credit card balance and we think, woohoo, we're paying down $500. This is great. And then we, of course, have to live. We have to get to places. We need to pay for transportation, food. And then we have to use our credit card because we need those things. But because it's on a credit card that we're probably not paying super close attention to because we're carrying a balance and we don't like to see that in our face. So then maybe we put $600 on that credit card. So then it just ends up being a roller coaster because we don't have clarity around how much are we actually adding to it and how much are we paying and where does the interest come in. So really having a plan where math wise, it doesn't make sense to take $100 and pay down your credit card and then take that $400 difference and put it in a spending account and use that for spending because you're like, well, the sooner I put a chunk on my credit card, the less interest I pay. And that is true. But if you can spend $500 with $400 into a spending account and $100 going to your credit card versus increasing your balance by $100, ultimately you end up further ahead. So from a math perspective, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But from a psychological having systems in place that help me take my plan and implement it in my life, then you will see that credit card balance trending down. If you pay $100 on it every payday, depending on your balance and the interest, of course, seeing it trend down and only going down because you're not adding to it. Or if there's something, for some protection, you want to use your credit card and then you're paying that off immediately. So if you put $200 on it, you make a payment for $200 because that's what you added to it. So having a system so that you only see that balance going down. And for a lot of people, this is from just pausing use of it. And some people decide to integrate it back into their life and others realize, you know what? I don't need that extra step of using the credit card and then paying it off. I'm just going to continue to use my debit because that makes my life easier.
I echo that. I think we're saying similar things. We just have different approaches and it really depends on the client and on that situation. And I will also add on, if you do have a credit card that you're actively trying to pay down, don't hesitate to turn up the dramatics, call the credit card company and ask, can they lower your interest rate? Can they pause interest being charged? Like, do not hesitate to ask. The worst you can be told is no. And that's not the worst because then we're just back to where we were and we maybe spent 20 minutes on the phone while we were doing some things.
I had a client once who took 5 minutes and I think she saved herself like 6 or 7% interest. So then we calculated what impact that had on how much interest she was spending. It's remarkable how that changed.
Yeah.
And yeah, they might say no, but they might say yes. And remember, it's just a random stranger doing their job on the other end of that phone. They've seen your level of debt and more on the daily. So they're not judging you. They're just doing their job. Just call and be a human and ask nicely and see, maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no, but if it's a yes, that's so impactful.
Well worth the call. So number 3, I had 4 down and we've kind of talked about 3 of them. So I have automate savings and or investing or bill payments. I am all about automation. As the ADHD brain goes, I will think of something. I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to do that. And then it just falls out the other side instantly. If it's not wrote down, if it's not in my calendar, it's not happening. So especially when it comes to investing and savings, I'll say there's kind of like a preconceived piece of like, well, I have to have this much saved up before I do something. Starting small and putting money away. Again, I kind of classify investing as like more of a long-term piece where the money's actually in the markets and working, where savings is more, it's in high interest. It's not risk exposed, or it might just be going into a true savings account at the bank. So having automation set up that when you get paid, you pay yourself. And I think you can speak to that, Sherry, of is it the Profit First book that really, yeah.
Being able to have, again, it comes back to your first point of systems for all of the things, because what happens when we know what we're going to do with the money before it hits our bank account, it's clear. We're able to make decisions without the emotion attached to it. And I see this a lot with clients when they're getting a lump sum, whether that's a tax return or a bonus, when we're able to step back and make decisions before it hits the bank account, that's so impactful, because when it hits the bank account, we start to get all these emotions and these temptations. And it's really important to plan for things ahead of time. And being able to use automation, I think, is really key. Like, why set yourself up to have to remember to pay a credit card bill when you can automate it? What I see often is folks aren't comfortable automating when they don't have those systems and that clear plan in place. So often what I see is, like, we take baby steps. We work on the plan. We talk about the first accounts that need to get set up, which is most often that spending account. And then we start to work on that plan even more. And then we start to add in more automations for bills and automations for money going into savings accounts. One thing too, that if you can do this through your employer, if you've got that bills account and that spending account, and you know how much every pay you're going to put into the spending account, you can ask your employer if they can divide your pay deposit, because that can often reduce any delays or transfers or holds and things like that. And I do always encourage, set the spending amount as the default and then have the rest go into bills. So then if you get those higher paychecks, then it's in the bills account, and you're not, because if you do it the opposite way and you're just like, I got an extra $200 this pay, and that goes into your spending account, it just disappears before you know it.
It ties in a bit to the, like, more money does not create less problems, right? So if there's more in your, if your pay goes up, if you get more in, like, as a bonus piece, it doesn't solve the problems until we have the system in place to solve the problems.
Yep. Yeah. And I can't, we were each going to do 3, and I don't know how many we've done, but
I think go.
I have one more for sure, maybe 2 more. This again relates to credit card debt. I guess not necessarily credit card debt, any type of debt. If you're focused on paying off debt and you want to start channeling extra money towards that, first have a chunk of money in a savings account. Then this then goes to continuing to see your balance trend down. So if you have 500, 1,000, 2,000 in a savings account, and that number is going to vary depending on what you think could come up, and then go crazy on paying down your debt. Because when lifes, you then have that money in the savings account. So if you have to replace 2 tires on your car, you've got a chunk of money there that you then aren't defaulting to, I have to use my credit card for this. Well, my balance was trending down, and now I just had to add something to it. And all of these things really help contribute to not going, well, it's not working, I might as well not even bother.
Right. And I think that comes back to, like, the psychological versus emotional piece with money, where my brain prefers, like, okay, I'd rather have it on the credit card if I'm paying that down, because then I'm paying less in interest. But the emotional says, if something happens, then yes, I fall into that cycle of, like, well, I have to use my credit card again because I don't have any savings. So it's definitely knowing yourself and knowing what's going to feel best.
If money were just math, it would be easy for everybody to manage. It's like 20% math and 80% emotions, and those systems, putting them in place really decreases the emotional side of it. And one last thing that I want to share is find a way to manage your cash flow. So this is a term you've maybe heard before, maybe haven't, but basically this is having a plan to be able to see your monthly budget go from, okay, this is hypothetical, this is what I think is going to come in, this is what I think is going to go out, to this is real, and planning it in chunks based on your pay. So if you're paid every 2 weeks, have a way to see, okay, here's my balance before I got paid, here's exactly what my paycheck is, and here's all the things that are going to come out of my account before I get paid next time. Maybe that's a spreadsheet, maybe your pen and paper, maybe that's a journal. Just having a way to know I'm going to be okay come next payday, and then do that over and over and over again. And this is easier when you're using a spreadsheet to see months and months in advance, because one of the challenges for folks with ADHD is that there's 2 times, now and not now. And when it's now and there's money in your bank account, you think, money in bank account, me spent. But being able to see what we really believe is going to happen in your bank account in the next 2 weeks, 2 months, allows us then to think about, if I go and take $500 now and buy this thing, before I get paid next, I'm going to go into the negative in my bank account and I'm not going to have enough to cover my rent. So this just allows us to see money more in our predicted reality.
Yeah. And my brain didn't jive with that piece. Like, I understand what you're saying, but my brain likes going monthly picture and then looking at, okay, whether it's weekly, you look at it or look at the last 30 days and just categorize where things have gone. Like I will say, and we can probably both attest, 99 to 100% of our clients, when we meet with them, do not know what's going where. They have an idea, not always, but frequently that idea is quite off from reality, especially when it comes to things like groceries, fuel, eating out, entertainment, right? It's not necessarily, we all have a pretty good grip on our cell phone bill. It's the consumer discretionary that sneaks up on us.
True, 100%. And I think we approach this a little bit differently with our clients too. We've never actually talked about this specifically, but I think you lean more to having your clients go back and track some of that discretionary spending. And sometimes that works for some of my clients, but sometimes it's just like, what do we think we spend in these things? And let's set the system up with these educated guesses and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we pivot, because sometimes a big barrier to having that monthly like snapshot in that plan is, well, first I have to go back and check the last 3 months of all of my transactions on my bank account and credit card to see what I'm spending in category A. And it's like, well, no, if that's going to take us too long, we're not going to do that. We're going to guesstimate and then we're going to move forward, because sometimes that can be a big block.
Yeah. A lot of the times it'll be looking at the last full month, never the last 3 months. Cause yeah, that's a block right there. I don't even want to do that for myself. So, but if there's something that they're like, well, I think this, then we guesstimate. But moving forward with yours, that makes sense. Then you get more accuracy. And often that's where the surprises come out, right? Like last night I did it with a couple and we got some of it exact because they could remember some of it exact, but other parts were estimates. And the numbers say there should be an additional $2,000 every month, which is typically the case. It looks really good on paper, but in living, one of those categories or two of those categories is costing us more than we think we're spending more than we think we spend in an area or two. The reality piece of like, okay, this is what it says. So then how do you have a system to stay within those guidelines that we put in place? And they're very healthy guidelines, right? We didn't restrict. He had a habit of smoking. She has pieces. She's like, I would like to keep going to yoga, still putting personal spend in there, healthy fuel, healthy grocery things, right? Like we didn't say you can't do this anymore. Even doing all of those things that we said, they still had extra money. So it's then putting the system in place for how do we do what we said and show that extra money?
Yeah, it's sometimes wild how much surplus there should be that people aren't feeling. I started working with a client in October, and in December we were meeting, and she is a business owner. So she had the business side of it and the personal side of it. And within 2 months, she actually said, like, where is all this money coming from? It was always here. It was always here. And now you're being really intentional with it, and you have a plan, and you can see, if I do this today, it impacts this tomorrow and next week. And that is just giving her not only the confidence to know when she can pay extra on her credit card and when she can start building a vacation fund so that she can continue to pay herself regardless of days off. And we got through the holidays with reduced work, and she's generally paid once a month for the services she provides, but is paying herself biweekly because it lines up with her spouse's pay. And we've got a 3-pay month coming up in March, and we're seeing that and we're planning for it. Versus before, that would be it's the time in March where she's supposed to pay herself, and just that, holy shit, I can't do it, and not really having that clarity around, well, why can't I do it? So it's just it having that plan, leaning into those automations, planning your money forward, having a separate bank account. And the power of the separate bank account, I've had clients come to me too and be, okay, well, it's payday and I'm adding more money to that account today, but there's $300 left in it. I didn't feel restricted the last 2 weeks. How is that possible? It's like, well, because there was a smaller pot of money, which changed how you made decisions around spending it. Really, it sounds a little unhinged maybe, but if you've got 7 categories that are being covered by that spending account, I don't care if you spend $0 in one and extra in another, as long as that account covers those categories, that's all that matters. And
For
it
sure.
doesn't require tracking, and it only requires, do I have enough money to cover my essentials between now and the next time that money goes in? And if you do, the rest can go wherever you want it to go.
Yes. So freedom within the containers.
Yes. And I like to say it too, is boundaries that create gentle guidance, but they're not brick walls. They're not so restrictive that you can't do anything with them. If it's Thursday and you get paid on Friday and there's more money going to that spending account and there's $200-$300 left, what do you want to do with it? If you have an impulse spending account, transfer it there. Maybe it's half to that, half extra to debt. Like, it doesn't matter what you do with it because it was already part of the plan and you were under budget in that category. So yeah, I love how we've come full circle with really, that's the most important thing. Separate your spending from your bills, ideally with a plan, but you're already spending without a plan. So if you start to separate that by adding a spending account without the plan, it's still going to get you further ahead. So I just love that you're my partner in this, Val, and being able to help with consistency, because I think if I was doing this on my own, I probably would have abandoned it a long time ago.
For sure. No doubt. No doubt.
That's one of the best ways to have consistency, is like have a partner in crime, have somebody that you're committing to do something with on a regular basis, whether that's a money date with a spouse or partner, whether that's a money date with a friend or with an accountability buddy. Just find those systems that help you continue to show up for yourself, because again, that continuing to show up is the path to success. Whether you show up with 10% today and 90% tomorrow, or 5% for the next 2 weeks, you're still moving forward. And that's what's really important. So I hope we've inspired you to make some changes with your finances and think about baby steps, not coming
start
out of the
small.
gate sprinting. The smaller you start, the more sustainable it is. Share this with a friend. Go and subscribe so that you get notifications, and that helps our podcast reach more people. And thank you for listening. And we can't wait to see you next time on the Mind and Money podcast.